I'm Renee Taube. I'm a professor of architecture, and I'm moderating the talk today. And I'm very flattered to be invited to do so by the Institut Français. My area is architecture and film, which is why I've been invited. And I'm going to ask a few questions and then open up questions to the audience. So my first question's for Stéphane. It's about filming on the Champs-Élysées, and how did you do it?
Yes, but we just went to the Champs-Élysées to really shoot on the Champs-Élysées. That was as easy as that. No, it's not so easy to go on the Champs-Élysées because, of course, it's very complicated to have the authorizations, but we could get it. So we could shoot 3 hours one Sunday morning in October last year. And during 3 hours, we put some about 100 or 200 cars around our actors, and we shoot the scene. And during all the shooting of this film, it was raining quite every day, as you could see. But I think it's good for the movie because we had a lot of mud, etc., on the construction site. So that was very interesting to have this rain. But of course, on the Champs-Élysées, I wanted something else. And the sun was there. So I said to myself, maybe we will manage to do this movie. And I wanted to shoot really on the Champs-Élysées because the character, François Mitterrand, talks about the Axe Royal, the royal access from the Louvre through the Arc de Triomphe. But we have to feel it, we have to get it, and for that we have to see it and to be on the Champs-Élysées to have this feeling. So it was very important. We do cinema, we can't just talk about that, we had to see it. So that's why I wanted to go on the Champs-Élysées really, and it's a real scene that really happened. François Mitterrand really asked to see a simulation and really went to the Champs-Élysées without his guards. So I wanted to have this scene, and we could do it.
That makes me inspires me to ask a few more questions. First, about the axis of.
Or try mine. Mine now works very well.
We already changed. Maybe I need to hold it close. Okay. Pardon. For filming on the Champs-Élysées, and Paris is known for scenography, the scenographic Paris, and also for the Haussmannization and the axial and the view. And how did you feel in this particular scene on the Champs-Élysées? Because was there a reason that you weren't able to show the arch itself?
Yes. But I could not show the arch for 2 reasons when I was on the Champs-Élysées. The first one was that at this stage of the story, the arch did not exist. So we made the arch disappear. But otherwise, during all the movie, there was a subject, and this subject was that we could not show the arch finished because for white reason. For white reason, because we did not get the authorization to show the arch because the family of Spreckelsen didn't want us to show it. We decided to show the construction, and we say we would just show the construction because the construction is about the right of information. It's a public building built with public money. It's a story connected to the history of France, etc. So there is a right to information. That's why we show the construction site. But when Spreckelsen dies, the arch was not finished, so we do not show the arch finished. You understand me? That's okay.
Sorry, now I've forgotten the question I was going to ask, which was about the construction of the arch. How did you film the construction of the arch with moving image?
You mean
When
the construction site?
The how did you film how did you show
I
the
wanted to have
site?
wide shot because it's a story about one guy who is building something very huge. He only did small churches. He only did his own house, and now he's constructing something huge. So I wanted to have this wide shot, but of course we could not not do it digitally. It was too expensive. We could not do fake construction. It was insane economically. So the solution was we used pictures that do exist, photos that do exist, because this construction site was filmed and many people took photos because it was a very famous construction. So there were some photos who were in very good quality, and we said that if the photo is really the shot in the movie, we can put our actors inside the photo, and then a girl, a magician, animates the photos, and it becomes a shot of the movie. So that means that we have a real basis, and for me that was important to have it, and in this real basis we can put our story. And for les plans serrés, for the close-up, we just constructed, but he can tell you, in the back of our characters, of our actors, we just constructed some stuff to be to fit to the wide shot. But you can describe where we did this.
I mean, some of it was, for instance, at the end of the movie, when the architect has just found out that this is not the right marble, and he goes up the elevator and he's like walking on that bridge. We filmed that in a flat field. That was just, I mean, so there's so much in there that is, I mean, it's just marvelous what they've done with the VFX and the CGI and those old photos, and because it's magical when he's like walking at he's 100 meters up in the air, right? And we filmed it like, I mean, we filmed when I go to see Pei and he's building his pyramid in the Louvre. That was in a flat field. There was nothing there. So that was all like, I mean, yeah, that's all been put in there in the post.
Thank you. And is it true Mitterrand and the architect actually stood in the Champs-Élysées to look at where the art? And is it also true, the scene in the film where Mitterrand walks on the marble slabs to see if they're slippery?
Yes, everything dealing with the construction or dealing with political aspects is true. So that's true that Mitterrand came many times on the construction site to see, but I'm not sure that he works on marble blocks, but I decided that he did.
Yes. Okay.
And what is true, because it's filmed almost, is that Mitterrand is the one who said you don't need to treat marble. If you treat it, you will change the quality of the stone. Mitterrand really said that, and there is a small film, a small archive, when we can see him saying that to Spreckelsen.
He says, la pierre et la pierre.
He says, la pierre et la pierre, yeah, stone is stone. And Spreckelsen said, a cube is a cube. So they all had great ideas. But yes, so it's true that Mitterrand was interested in this construction site. He was very connected to the architect. He called him l'architect, and they were connected.
And Claes, how was it acting with François Mitterrand?
Well, I haven't acted with François Mitterrand, so but I've acted with Michel Faux, who did a marvelous interpretation. I think I'm actually kind of, because he looks nothing like him, right? But I think that sort of that's really called casting on your side, Stéphane, because if it starts to, I don't look like anything like the architect either, so that leaves, you know, that kind of room for your own interpretation. I mean, this is not in any way a biopic or a documentary or anything. There's stuff in here that is factual, that happened, but I mean, obviously, everything that I speak with my wife about is something that we have imagined, based on Laurence Cousset's book and based on your. I mean, so there's matter of fact in there, but there's also like a fiction in there that that's sort of like, I feel that it plays really into the whole of what does it do to you when you embark on a journey like this that is so expensive. I mean, this thing ended up costing like more than 3 billion francs in 1989, and when you start spending that kind of money and you don't speak the language very well, you get into trouble, and he does. And I feel that that became like the vessel that we sort of like traveled in.
And how was it playing the role of someone who died at the end of the film? How did you feel about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think if a character is ill and knows that he's dying, that would play into it. But this guy did not know it. I mean, we researched it, and it turned out that he was actually, throughout the process, complaining about stomach pain, but he never really did anything about it. And that is also why when they found out that he was ill, it was at a quite advanced stage. So there was no turning back, and perhaps he could have saved himself if he'd just been like, if he went to the doctor at an earlier stage. So it didn't really do anything. I mean, when he does not know that he's gonna, it'd be very weird if I started sort of like hinting at that he's gonna die when he does not know it. So we haven't done a whole lot about that actually. I think there are like 2-3 points in the story where he's like, where you sort of see that he has a tummy ache, but apart from that, it's not something you can actually put in there when he's not aware of it.
And I'd like to open up the questions to the audience now, if there's questions. Okay, so the woman in red.
Woman in red. So you will have a microphone. You will have a microphone.
How did you decide to do this movie?
I decided to do this movie. This story is not famous at all in France. Nobody knows Spreckelsen in France. We know many architects who did les grands travaux of François Mitterrand, but this architect is not known at all. So I discovered it reading a book, but I read the book in 2016, and I thought to myself, it's impossible to make a movie of this story because the reconstitution is too complicated to do, so I let it apart. And after, when I got the information that the rights were available, I thought to myself that it could be interesting because the main point that made me that it was the figure, the personality of Spreckelsen interested me a lot. And there was a lot of mysterious around him because in the book there was almost nothing about him because he was not famous when he arrived and he died very soon. And he didn't speak to journalists, etc. So we have nothing about him. And I thought to myself, okay, there is a mysterious, something that interests me. What it is to be this age and to arrive in this world, which is not his world, because he's Danish and he arrives in France. And And also, I like this guy because in a few months, he goes from glory to tragedy. And it's not common at all. And at least I like this guy because what happened to him comes at a time when France changed of political wing from the left to the right. So we entered into a very pragmatic and liberal world, which is still the world we know now. So it's a turning point that Spreckelsen is a turning point for France, but it's also a turning point for him that he lived in his body, in fact. Voilà. So that I thought to myself, it can be a good movie.
Okay, one in front here.
Thank you. It occurs to me that your film is a much more successful film about architecture than that Hollywood film that came out a couple of years ago, which was a very long film, which didn't seem to me about architecture. And I wanted to know, from your point of view as a filmmaker, it occurs to me that the job of a filmmaker is very similar to that of an architect, that you suffer the same frustrations and budget pressures and anxieties and so on. Was that what interested you as a filmmaker, that the problem that an architect has, and did it feel very familiar to you as a filmmaker?
Yes, definitely. Architecture and cinema are both arts that you do in a collective way. So it's a common point. And also, you have an idea when you do a movie, and you have to make this idea come true in reality. So you have to deal with economic aspects, human aspects, material aspects. So, of course, you can make the comparison with an architect for many reasons. And I think the difficulty of Spreckelsen is that he's very attached to the purity of an idea, but he's not able to go through reality with his idea. Reality prevents him, is an obstacle for him. So the comparison is obvious, but I would not have been comfortable with doing a movie about a filmmaker because I think it's not interesting for anybody. But with an architect, I was more comfortable. And I think that architecture is also, we think that architecture is only for specialists. But I think that architecture, we are all concerned about architecture because dealing with architecture is dealing with public space or private space, is dealing with aesthetic aspect that is interesting for everybody. And of course, as a filmmaker, filming building or filming a urban situation is something that I wanted to do because it's interesting too.
There's one at the back.
Thank you. Since the film has been shown at Cannes, has it opened up a conversation at all in France, reassessing the arch? And I wondered if in Denmark, Claes, you had awareness of this architect, and what playing him has changed for how you think about his role as a Danish architect. Thank you.
Well, I remember quite clearly when he won this competition. It was a big thing. We're a tiny country, and when something like this happens and some Dane goes and plays a big number somewhere, it was in the press and it was a big thing. So I remember it quite clearly. And then, of course, when we started getting into this, I tried to read as much as possible and find out as much as I could about him. But also, I was a little bit careful because sometimes, it is not a biopic, so we're not with him from when he was born, and we sort of enter his life when he wins the competition. And I think it was also quite important that we allowed for the story that is on the pages in the script to unfold, rather than you know, me being like, oh, he was so and so and so. But what I thought that was important, and we've kept that, is that he was very adamant about seeing his vision through. It was really important to him, and it seemed to me that he was very idealistic. He was very sort of a perfectionist, like he wanted it a certain way, and because he it's a monster that he made, man. Come on, it's like, it's a pyramid of Giza. It's like 111 and 111 and 111. It's like so big, and he's only built tiny churches. And of course he's been able to oversee all the little details in those. But all of a sudden, when you've got something this big, you get into trouble if you can't compromise. And I thought that was so interesting, you know, that for someone to sort of like, this is the only thing he's done his whole life. He's only ever built stuff that is squares and cubes. And he's been mad about that. And then all of a sudden he does this thing, and it's like so huge, and I don't think he's taken into consideration what is actually going to take to build it, and how many people are going to be involved, and how much money, and all that. And it was just so fascinating, you know, that to sort of like take this guy and put him in the middle of that whole thing, and then just see what happens. And in that sense, I feel there's, with the question about the filming, it is sort of an allegory of that, because it's, if you can't compromise when you're, I mean, I could very easily come on the day and say, Stéphane, I think today this scene, this direction, and we try that, and then you say, that's dead wrong, we're not going to do that, we need to go in that direction. And if I can't do that, we're really going to get into trouble. And he couldn't. It seemed that he was just so in his own thing and his own idea of what it had to be, that ended up being like the problem. And you know, it was funny, because I was speaking with a lot of architects, you know, about just being an architect. And some of them sort of, or some of them said, yeah, so you dream up this massive thing that you design, and now it's there, and you've built the model, and you've got all the sketches, and you've got everything, and then you start building it, and then the second you start building it, you lose 80% of your control of it. That is what you give away, because it's just its own thing, and there are so many things that are, you just have to be able to compromise, and he really couldn't. Wow, that was a very long answer. Did I in any way answer what you asked? Yes? Yes, you did. Thank you. Good.
Okay. Question here at the front. Oh.
Oh. You can say, did it, I mean, has the movie, since it's come out, has it done something to are people talking or thinking about it in a different way?
The movie came out just 1 week ago in France, so it's a little bit early to...
So now everybody knows it.
But some people told me now I want to go and visit it, so I think it's great if they do it. This building is in a business area of Paris, in a business quarter, so we do not have an affective link, an affective connection to this area. And it can change the perception. Yes, maybe it's only a movie, but yeah, I'm not sure that all the movie do not have, it's not necessary that a movie make people learn things or discover things, but in that case, that's sure that people will discover the story, because, as I told you, Spreckelsen is not famous at all, and nobody knows the story, and it's quite, it can be interesting for people to discover it.
It adds a human face.
Yeah, it gives a human face. Yeah, and La Défense needs it, because La Défense is a very cold area. So we need to have a human relation to it. And Spreckelsen said something I like very much. He said that the cube had to give a soul to La Défense. And I think he managed to do it because this cube with this shape, this open shape, was a great idea. And it was an international and anonymous competition. And there were more than 400 architects who compete. And it's an exception in the history of architecture because it was such a huge competition, anonymous international, but also an exception because all the guys who lost the competition agreed to say, okay, this drawing is a good one. It's a good idea to do this project at this place. And also, it's for this reason that Paul Andreu accepted to work on the arc, which was not his arc, but the arc of Spreckelsen.
Because it's quite different from Paul Andreu's usual style of architecture.
It's very different from what he did, but yeah. But it's quite exceptional to have such a big architect because Paul Andreu was famous. He did the airport of Roissy in France. So a famous architect who accepts to work on the construction of another architect which is not famous at all. So it was quite generous from him. And he did it because he always said, and until the end he continued to say that this proposition was brilliant, was a great proposition, this shape on this place.
That's great, thanks. So I think we'll have one last
question.
Hello.
Yes, I see. Yep. First, thank you very much for this movie. It was really, really interesting. And so I'm an interior architect myself, not an architect, interior architect. And what was striking for me in this movie it was to see the whole process of the competition and how the work started. It's crazy because what I could see is, so it's anonymous, he won. Then he's put right in the middle saying, okay, you go for it, let's do your project. And there had been no budget done, nobody asked him for references and how the team would work, who would work on it. And the way it's presented in the movie, the fact that Paul Andreu is coming to help him, it looks like the architect came to Paul Andreu to ask him for advice on something else, and then Paul Andreu came to help him. I was wondering, is this process, is it really how it happened? Because it sounds crazy to put that much money through this kind of really erratic process. And I was wondering if Paul Andreu maybe had been placed there actually by Mitterrand, because they were suddenly realizing they had appointed an architect who had a great vision, but maybe not the right structure and references behind him. So yeah, I wanted to ask you exactly what was the part of... Ah oui, je peux le dire en français aussi. Sorry.
I think, no, it doesn't happen always like that, of course. But when I presented the movie in many cities, etc., each time there are people who came to me and told me, you should do a movie about this building or this building or this building because the construction was crazy for this or this reason. So that means that every construction is an adventure. And every construction has political aspects, constructive aspects, and human aspects. So that's why it's very interesting to focus on it. But of course, here we are in a very, very special case because François Mitterrand behaved like a king. In France, we have this culture of our king who built many buildings, and François Mitterrand, as a president, behaved as a king. He, on his own, decided to do les grands travaux, big constructions, but it was not in his program when he was elected, but he decided to do it. And it's very special. Spreckelsen won the competition with doing one model. It's the model you see at the beginning of the movie, the real model he presented. He did one drawing and one poetry. And that's it. So after they said, okay, we have to change the rules, and the guy who will present themselves, they have to give a technical file, etc. So it's not the same now. But at this time, it was the very beginning, and it was organized like that. So for all of these reasons, it's not common, it's exceptional, and that's it.
But I think it is actually, I mean, it was not Mitterrand that chose Paul Andreu to go and work with him. No, the thing was that when he won the competition, and this is something I think he sort of slightly overlooked, is that he had to find a partner in France. It had to be somebody French that helped him build it. It had to be a French entrepreneur. And I think Spragelsen was actually kind of, you're not good enough. I'm going to go back home to Denmark and find someone who's good enough, because you're not good enough in this country. I don't trust you. And then he had to pick someone, and then it turned out that Paul Andreu was actually, and I think that is like so generous that he was like, listen, I submitted my own bid to this competition, but you won, and I can totally see why you did. And therefore he decided to come on board, and also to accept the fact that they were not two architects on it. He was like the consultant or something. And when Spragelsen died, Paul Andreu actually saw the project through, and tried to be as true to the original idea as he could. I think a lot of respect should go to him, because I think it was actually kind of really cool that he really helped him in the way that he did, and sort of was able to put himself aside a little bit. And in that sense, it's quite interesting, the talk about egos that they have at the end of the movie when Spragelsen leaves it, because it seemed that Andreu was actually able to take his own ego out of it and just really try and help the project as much as possible. So it was interesting in that way, but I don't think it was Mitterrand that actually told him to work with him.
That's great. Well, thank you to Claes. Oh, one more question.
So often we speak to actors and ask them about the risk of losing themselves in a character, etc. But I'm curious, Stéphane, as a director, given the aforementioned analogous role of an architect to a director, especially an architect with such a strong artistic vision, if you yourself felt a pull into Otto, the same way we often speak about actors being pulled into characters.
As I told before, yes, I can make a comparison between a filmmaker and an architect, but I feel, I would like to say, but I said it with modesty, I feel closer to Paul Andreu than to Otto, in fact, because I like the fact that Otto has strong ideas and is loyal too. We can see many times in the movie. He's very sincere. He has a pure idea of his work, and that's great. But he fails to make his idea becomes true in reality, because he has difficulties to build, really. And I think Paul Andreu has this quality. He's able to go from the idea to the construction. So, and I think that's the sense of architecture. So if I had to compare myself, I said it modestly, to one of these guys, I prefer to be the guy who doesn't die when he's trying to do a building, and who has built many, many buildings in his career. Voilà.
Okay. Well, working together and placemaking and cooperation is a fantastic way to end. So thank you to Claes and Stéphane and our interpreter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to you.